Okay, hi ladies and gents. This is my second YouTube um, video, and it's continuing in the Ghibli series. So I had a little look at unboxing the Ghibli Flapper. There it is. That's a better view of it. That was in the last one. So today I'm going to make a start on it, and what I'm going to have a little look at. Let's just get over here. Is zip top off it. Instructions, I don't think I'll need them, but what I want to have a look at is the let's just get something a little bit closer. We should be able to zoom in a little bit. So these are the characters, the two characters from the film Pazu and Sheeta. I think she's a kind of princess, and he's a kind of a hapless young lad who ends up, striking up a friendship with her, and they go off and essentially save the universe. That's pretty much what happens in the film, without giving too much of a spoiler. So I'm going to make a start on these. So what do we need? Well, we definitely need that. Let's have a little gander what we've got in here. So I've got several sets of pliers. These are me Huron, I think it is, Huron. These are kind of my go-to nips, and I do have a set of these which I got as a Christmas present, and I use those for sort of super fine. They are really nice, but these tend to be kind of my go-to ones. So let's just have a little look and start snipping and see who we get. I've got to make sure that we do get all the right people. So yep, that's all Sheeta, and that, somewhat oddly, is all Pazu. So let's do Pazu first. So there he is. Obviously the attachment looks aren't too bad. I then what I tend to do is go in there with me single edge nippers, and just get those off there. There are some seam lines. I don't know whether the white's good enough on here really. It's actually made it worse, I think. Let's try that one. There are some seam lines on there, so what I'm going to do is I'll snip all the parts off, and then I'll get cleaned up on the seam lines, and we'll be back with that in just a few moments. Yeah, so there he is, all in his little constituent parts, and like I say, the cleanup's not going to be too bad, but it is definitely going to need some, so I will get on that. I'll get my X-Acto knife. There's a couple of ways you can do it. There's a couple of ways, and what I tend to use is an X-Acto knife and a bit of a scraping action. This will need a little bit more than a scrape, but be as gentle as you can just to take the little plastic nubs off. And then just scrape along the seam line. and that should do that. That seems smooth enough. And then I'll just give it just a little rub over with either one of these little sanding stick or just a little bit of abrasive cloth just to knock those edges off. So I'll go away and I'll do those, and I'll come back when I've finished all that cleanup. Okay, just having a little look on this one here. Obviously the seams can be quite difficult to dig out, and when they're on his boot, you can get in there with a knife. But the other thing I like to use is just a little bit of sort of sandpaper, so you got an edge, and then essentially you can get that edge. You can see that very well, but you can get that edge in there and just take the seam off, which seems to do the trick. Okay. Yep, so that's two of his legs done. On with the rest. And this one, this is his torso, and again, try and get that in focus, but there's an absolutely hideous step on that one, seam line, so I'll definitely have to do a lot of scratching and yeah, be a bit brutal with that to get that out, but it'll come out. The other side's getting there as well. A few more little bips just to smooth off. The bag's done. Okay, so I've done both his legs, and I'll show you I'll finish him off in a minute, but I've done both his legs. I've started on one of his arms, but whilst that's going on, I might as well start the assembly process of the figure. And like I say, it is a snap together kit, but these lugs are awfully tight. There you go. So I've pressed that in, and you can see that there is actually still a pretty hefty seam all the way around there, and that's going to need filling, no doubt about that. One thing you can do which helps a little bit is I just nip off the last little bit there of the lug. That just allows just a little bit more play, and well, it still hasn't vanquished it at all, but I'll layer up a load of solvents on that in a minute. Let's just have a little look, see how well his torso fits. So his torso fits pretty good on there as well. Well, no it doesn't. There's a huge gap all the way around that, so again, let's just have that off. See if that makes any difference at all. Not really. That lug that's sticking out his back there, I don't know if you can see that, this thing here, yeah, that's where his gun gets attached to, but we might have to do a little bit of work with that. So that's what I'm going to do. This is my glue of choice for this kind of gap. Let's just make sure it's running. It's absolutely freezing cold in the shed at the moment. The heat's on. It's about -4 outside. I'm on the south coast of England, about the 6th or 7th of Jan, and it is absolutely freezing. So we're going to layer up a load of this on here, make sure it's a nice fit, and the reason that I'm doing that is when I chuck it together, you can wiggle it around a little bit like that, get the plastic to just soften up a bit, and then you can give it a good hard squeeze. Good hard squeeze there, and that does help to kind of seal that joint up a little bit. So I'm going to leave the legs there to dry before I attach the torso, because yeah, it's not a fantastic joint, but it'll do. A little bit of filler, a little bit of sanding, I'll get rid of that. So I'm going to leave his legs to dry off and get back to scraping his arms. Right, so let's just get a a little bit of that. Here he is. That's his torso, cleaned up. That's his noggin. His noggin's going to sit somewhat counterintuitively. Whoops, there he goes, at quite a steep angle. And again, it's not really a fantastic fit, but squidge it in there with a little bit of contactor, and that should sort that gap out. It definitely goes that, because it's got a key. It will only go in that one way. Same with the arms, and one of the issues you've got with dry fitting parts for push together models is once you've pushed them in place, they are quite difficult to get out. But it's not bad on that view. It's a pretty good fit, I think. But on that view, it's not quite. We've still got a huge gap. So what I'll use to fill that gap is I think it's AK actually. It's a acrylic, sorry, a plastic putty, no, Vallejo, there it is. And I like it because you can just wipe it away with a cotton bud. It's pretty easy to use, so that's what I'm going to fill those gaps with. I think I'll get the arms on first, and then we'll deal with connecting the head. So again, quite a liberal sort of squidge of that. It's not going anywhere because those keys are absolutely solid. But just whack that in. There it is. Again, squidge it around a little bit. Just try and get the contactor to sort of bridge the gap, if you like. Actually, I'm going to use a bit of a combo. This is a little bit of Tamiya extra thin. All I'm going to do there is just whap it around the seam. Like that. Squidge it in. Squidge it in. Yeah, and that's going to look, I think, pretty solid. So I'll just continue with the rest of that. Get his other limbs attached. Get his noggin on. I'm gonna paint, with the exception of the gun, which I'll do at a different time. I'm going to paint him all in one go. Like I say, it's an anime character, so you're not looking for hyper realism on things like the skin and the clothes. It's more a kind of cartoon-esque style. So I'll get them together, and then we'll have a look at Sheeta, the female. Okay, that's him together. There he is. Really straightforward little build there, and yeah, quite nice. Quite nice figure, 1/20th scale. Now the last thing I'm going to do is you might still be able to see that there is sort of faint. The line's gone, but there's kind of, I don't know, a residue. So what I do there, just to kind of get rid of that, is I get me extra thin, Tamiya extra thin. I just wipe along the seam. It kind of blends. It blends it all together. Takes out all the sort of harsh knife marks, for want of a better word. Again, just on the back there. Actually, the back's not too bad. I've missed the boot, so I'll have to go back and do the boot, but that's all fine. Again, on his hat there's quite a bit of kind of knife marks, so I'll just smooth that out. And this stuff, vaps off real quick. So the only big issue is, let's stick that back in the pot, otherwise we'll knock it over. Yeah, the only real big issue is the seam on this shoulder is pretty naff, so I'll definitely have to get a bit of putty in there. I've squidged it and squoze it and sort of manipulated it around, but it's still leaving a pretty big gap. So I'll sort that out. That's him. So onwards and upwards. I'll leave him to sort of set off over there. He doesn't stand too well on his Todd. And we'll crack on with the little princess Sheeta, and we'll get her done. Okay, well that's her all scraped up, so I'm just gonna get her assembled. But I don't know if you can see. Hang on, turn that off a little bit. Don't know if you can see that at all actually, but there's like really fine lines. I think these are the molding errors. I think. Anyway, they might a good layer of primer might sort those out, but I'm not going to waste loads of time trying to fill those or do anything like that. Odd leg shape. I'm guessing it's because they're moving, and this is meant to be pantaloon billowing out behind, but it's definitely not a leg shape. Anyway, I'll get those. I'll get it glued up, and then we'll wind this one up, I think. Okay, and there we have it. So there's the two of them. Let's have a little look. Oh, turn that one off again. Sheeta, there she is. I've left the head off because that will definitely make painting a little bit easier. Plus, I'll have to deal with that seam line there as well. Put a little bit of putty in that. It's not bad. That side is. That side I can half live with, I suppose, but I'll have to deal with that. But the rest of it is all right. A noggin just. Get that the other way around. There you go. A noggin just sits in there like that, so that won't be too bad to paint afterwards. Quite a nice little figure. So that's her. I can get it to stand up just about, and then Pazu. Again, he's done, and I've just filled those gaps a little bit with a bit of putty. I'll wait for that to sort of set off a little bit, and that's him done. So the only thing that needs to be finished on the figures really is just to sort the gun out and come up with the plan for how I'm going to attach a sling for the gun. Otherwise, that is that. Okay, peeps, so it's warmed up slightly in the bunker, which is good to know. But thanks again for this. The next thing I'm going to do with these two little figures, I'll get some undercoats on them, and then the next video will be painting them up, I think. So thanks for watching again, and I'll see you in the next one.